Switch off the light, and something old wakes up inside you. The room has not changed at all. The furniture sits where it always sat, the walls hold the same shape, nothing new has entered, yet your body suddenly braces, as if the darkness itself were alive. Your breathing shifts. Your ears begin reaching for sounds you never noticed before. Some quiet part of your mind starts watching the corners. But here's the strange thing about all of it. Darkness cannot hurt you. It has no claws, no weight, no edge. It is simply the absence of light, an empty space where information used to be. So what are you actually afraid of, standing there in the dark? You are not afraid of nothing. You are afraid of what the nothing might be hiding. Tonight we are going to climb inside that feeling, the one almost every human carries. We will trace it back through your brain, your childhood, and the deep history of your species. Because the fear of the dark is not a weakness, and it is not random. It is one of the oldest, smartest survival programs you own, and it is still running right now, every single night. Start with a simple truth that changes everything. You are not really afraid of darkness. You are afraid of uncertainty, and darkness is just the purest form of it. When the lights are on, your brain feels safe because it can see. Vision is your dominant sense, the one you trust above all others. Scientists estimate that a huge share of the information your brain processes arrives through your eyes. Sight is your early warning system, your map, your proof that the world is behaving normally. With it, you scan a room in a fraction of a second and decide instantly that you are safe. Now take that away. In darkness, your most powerful threat detector goes silent. The map vanishes. The proof disappears. Your brain does not simply switch to neutral and relax. It does something far more revealing. When it cannot confirm that you are safe, it assumes that you are not. This is a core principle of how your mind handles risk. Uncertainty is not treated as calm and empty. Uncertainty is treated as possible danger. Think about how you feel walking through your own home at night, a place you know perfectly. In daylight, it is just a hallway. In the dark, that same hallway feels longer, deeper, somehow watched. Nothing about the hallway changed. What changed is that you lost the ability to check it, and a brain that cannot check for threats does not conclude that there are none. It fills the silence with the worst possibilities just in case. This is why the fear feels so vague and so total at once. You are not frightened of one specific thing you can point to. You are frightened of everything you can no longer rule out. The dark is a question your survival instincts refuse to leave unanswered. And when you cannot answer it with your eyes, your mind answers it with fear. Notice too that this is not really about the lights at all. Stand in a thick fog or close your eyes in a strange place, and the same unease begins to rise. What unsettles you is not the loss of light itself. It is the loss of knowing, the sudden gap between you and the world you cannot read. A blindfold and a dark room produce the same quiet dread, because both rob you of the same thing. Both leave your survival instincts working in the blind. This is also why a familiar dark room feels safer than an unfamiliar one. In your own bedroom, your brain can fill the gaps with memory instead of fear. It already knows where the door is, where the bed sits, what belongs in every corner. The uncertainty is smaller, so the fear is smaller too. But this reaction did not appear out of nowhere. It was carved into you long before you were born, shaped by a world far more dangerous than your bedroom. To understand why the unknown frightens you so deeply, we have to go back to a time when the dark really could kill you. Your fear of the dark is not yours alone. It is a gift, passed down through an unbroken chain of survivors. Humans are creatures of the day. Our bodies are built for sunlight, our eyes tuned for color and detail in bright conditions. But our night vision is genuinely poor. Compared to many predators, we are nearly helpless once the sun goes down. Now picture your distant ancestors, long before cities, walls, or electric light. When darkness fell, the world did not grow safer. It grew hungrier. Many predators hunt at night, using senses far sharper than ours in the dark. For an early human, nightfall meant becoming the vulnerable one, the slow one, the blind one. In that world, fear of the dark was not a flaw. It was a life-saving instinct. Imagine two ancestors sharing the same dangerous night. One feels uneasy as darkness falls, stays close to the fire, listens carefully, sleeps lightly. The other feels nothing, wanders into the black without a second thought, relaxes completely. Over thousands of nights, which of them is more likely to survive? The cautious one, the fearful one, the one whose brain treated darkness as a warning. And survival is only half the story. To pass on your traits, you must live long enough to have children, and they must live too. So the tendencies of the careful, the watchful, the easily frightened were carried forward. The fearless, far too often, did not get the chance. This is the quiet logic of evolution. It does not reward courage in the face of real danger. It rewards caution that keeps you alive. You are descended from the ones who flinched at shadows, who felt their skin prickle in the dark, who chose safety again and again. Every nervous night they survived is written, faintly, into you. The fear you feel when the lights go out is their fear still doing its job. That is worth sitting with for a moment. Your discomfort in the dark is not a malfunction. Scientists believe it is closer to a feature, shaped over countless generations to keep you breathing. This is the leading evolutionary explanation, and it fits the evidence well, though no one can replay the distant past to prove it directly. Consider how naturally it returns, even in a modern, well-lit world. A small child fears the dark without ever being taught to. No one explains predators to a toddler. No one describes the dangers of the ancient night. Yet the fear arrives anyway, almost on schedule. That alone hints at something deep, something built in rather than learned. The dark seems to press an old button that was waiting inside us all along. It is humbling in a way to feel that history moved through you. The same shiver that warned a vulnerable ancestor still rises in you tonight. Countless generations separate you from that firelit night, yet the instinct crossed the whole distance unbroken. It is one of the oldest things you own. But where exactly does that ancient warning live inside you now? To find it, we have to look at the machinery in your skull, the alarm system that never fully sleeps. Deep inside your brain sit two small structures, each shaped a little like an almond. They are called the amygdala, and together they act as your personal alarm. Their job is simple but vital. They scan the world for threats and help decide, faster than thought, whether you should be afraid. This alarm does not wait for certainty. It would rather warn you 100 times for nothing than miss the one real danger. In daylight, with full vision, it stays relatively calm. Your eyes keep feeding it reassurance that all is well. But in darkness, that reassurance disappears, and the alarm system shifts into a higher state of alert. Your brain quietly prepares for the possibility of threat. One of the first things it does is sharpen your other senses to cover for your blind eyes. Your hearing, in particular, seems to demand more of your attention. In the dark, you notice sounds you would never register in the light. A creak in the floor, a tap against the window, the soft hum of the house settling. These sounds were always there, but now your brain is hunting for them, because sound is suddenly your best remaining defense. Along with this comes a lowered startle threshold. Your nervous system is primed to jump, to react, to flinch at the smallest trigger. This is why a sudden noise at night can launch your heart into your throat, while the same noise by day would barely register. In the dark, your body is already halfway to alarm. And here is the most important part. When a sound is ambiguous, when your brain cannot tell what made it, it does not assume the safest answer. It leans toward the dangerous one. That distant thud becomes a footstep. That faint rustle becomes something moving toward you. This is not your imagination being foolish. It is your survival logic working much as it was designed to. The brain is running a brutal piece of math. The cost of a false alarm is small, a wasted moment of fear. The cost of missing a real predator is everything. So it leans again and again toward the false alarm. Better to be frightened by nothing than calm before something. Your alarm system would rather scare you 1,000 times than fail you once. And once the alarm fires, your whole body answers it in an instant. A surge of stress signals flood your system, readying you to act. Your heart beats faster to push blood to your muscles. Your breathing quickens. Your senses narrow and sharpen onto the possible source of danger. This is the ancient response that prepares you to fight or to flee. In the dark, it can switch on from a single, unexpected sound. That is why a creak at midnight can leave you wide awake and tense, your body braced for a threat that never comes. But sharpened ears and a jumpy heart are only part of what happens in the dark, because when your brain runs out of real information, it does something far stranger. It starts inventing. Here's a fact about your mind that most people never realize. Your brain does not simply show you the world, it predicts it. At every moment, your brain is building a model of reality, guessing what is out there, and then checking that guess against your senses. In bright light, your eyes constantly correct those guesses. The model stays accurate, anchored to what is really in front of you. But in darkness, the corrections stop coming. Your eyes send back almost nothing. And your predicting brain struggles to tolerate a blank. So it does what it always does. It fills the emptiness with its best guess. The trouble is, with little real data to check against, those guesses can run wild. This is where the dark becomes a stage for your imagination. Consider a coat hanging on a door. In the light, it is obviously a coat. In the dark, that same vague shape can become a figure standing in the corner, watching. Your brain took a few faint lines and built a person out of them. This tendency has a name. It is called pareidolia, the brain's habit of finding familiar patterns, especially faces, in random or unclear shapes. You see faces in clouds, in wood grain, in the front of a car. In the dark, you see them in shadows, in piles of clothes, in the spaces between furniture. And your brain is especially eager to find one particular pattern, the human face and the human figure. Through evolution, missing a hidden person or predator could be deadly, so your mind seems tuned to see them readily, even where they are not. Now add fear to this process, and it grows sharper still. What you expect to see shapes what you actually perceive. If you already feel afraid, if you have just thought about something frightening, your brain leans toward frightening interpretations. The same shadow that means nothing on a calm night can become a lurking threat on an anxious one. Your fear writes the script, and your imagination performs it. This is why the monsters of the dark feel so real. They are not pulled from thin air, they are assembled by a brain doing its job, predicting threats with almost no information to work with. The dark is not full of monsters. It is full of gaps, and your mind cannot bear to leave them empty. There is a quiet proof of this you can feel yourself. Stare into a dark room long enough, and the shadows seem to shift and crawl. Nothing is actually moving. Your eyes, straining for any signal, begin producing faint noise of their own, and your brain reads that noise as motion. So you watch a corner, certain something stirred there, when the only thing that moved was your own restless mind. The dark hands, your imagination, a blank page, and fear holds the pen. And nowhere is this machinery louder or more vivid than in the mind of a child, because the fear of the dark does not begin in adulthood. It begins very, very early. If you were afraid of the dark as a child, you were not unusual. You were following one of the most predictable patterns in human development. Fear of the dark is considered a normal stage of growing up. Most children pass through it, and most children come out the other side. But why does it tend to peak in childhood of all times? The answer lies in how a young brain is changing. In early childhood, imagination blooms with extraordinary power. A child's mind can conjure vivid worlds, characters, and possibilities in an instant. That same gift, the engine of play and creativity, becomes the engine of fear once the lights go out. The dark gives imagination total freedom, with nothing to push back against. At the same time, a child is developing new mental abilities that adults take for granted. One of them is understanding that things still exist when they cannot be seen. A young child is also learning to think about threats in the abstract, to imagine dangers that are not physically present. This is a remarkable mental leap. But it comes with a cost. Once a mind can imagine a danger that is not there, it can be frightened by something entirely invented. The monster under the bed is not a sign of a broken child. It is a sign of a developing one, a brain stretching into new and powerful ways of thinking. Stories play a role here too. Children absorb tales of creatures in the dark, of shadows that come alive, of things that wait until the light is gone. Fear can also be learned by watching others. A child who senses that a parent is uneasy, or who hears that the dark is dangerous, may quietly adopt that fear as their own. So childhood fear of the dark is built from many layers at once: a vivid imagination, a newly abstract mind, absorbed stories, learned caution. And underneath all of it, that same ancient instinct, the one inherited from ancestors who feared the night. For most people, this fear fades with time. As the brain matures and experience accumulates, the dark slowly loses its grip. The child learns night after night that nothing comes. The shadows stay shadows, the room stays safe, and the fear gently loosens. It also helps when the people around them stay calm. A child who is comforted, rather than scolded or rushed, learns that the dark can be faced and survived. Each peaceful night becomes a small lesson. The bedroom is safe, the morning always comes, there was nothing waiting after all. Slowly, those lessons add up, and the imagination that once filled the dark with monsters learns to leave it quiet. But not for everyone, and not always completely. For some, the fear does not fade with childhood. It deepens, it lingers, and it begins to shape their nights in serious ways. That is where ordinary fear can cross a line into something with a heavier weight. For most adults, the fear of the dark settles into a faint background hum, easy to ignore, but for some, it never quietly steps aside. When that fear becomes intense, persistent, and disruptive, it has a name. It is often called nyctophobia, an extreme fear of darkness. A phobia is not the same as ordinary unease. It is a fear strong enough to interfere with everyday life. Someone with this phobia may feel genuine dread as night approaches. The thought of being in the dark can trigger real physical anxiety. Their heart races, their muscles tense, their mind floods with alarm, even when they know rationally that they are safe. And this fear rarely travels alone. It is often connected to broader anxiety, feeding it and being fed by it in return. One of its most painful effects involves sleep. The dark is, after all, where we are meant to rest. But for someone who fears it, the bedroom at night can become a place of tension instead of peace. Lying still in the dark, the mind races and the body refuses to settle. This can lead to real difficulty falling asleep, and to insomnia that wears a person down over time. Here, a cruel cycle takes hold. Fear of the dark disturbs sleep, and poor sleep frays the nerves. A tired, depleted brain tends to become even more sensitive to fear, even quicker to alarm. So the next night can feel worse, and the night after that, worse still. Dread steals the sleep, and the lost sleep deepens the dread, around and around. There is one more force that keeps a phobia alive, and it is worth understanding clearly. It is avoidance. When something frightens us, the natural response is to escape it. Sleep with every light on, never enter a dark room, always have someone nearby. In the short term, avoidance brings relief, and that relief feels like a solution, but it can be a trap. Every time you avoid the dark, you quietly teach your brain that the dark was truly dangerous, that escaping it was the right call. The fear is never given a chance to be proven wrong. So instead of shrinking, it can grow stronger, more certain, more in control. Avoidance does not starve the fear. It tends to feed it. And the relief it offers is always temporary. The dread simply waits for the next night, often a little heavier than before. Over time, the world can shrink around the fear. A person plans their evenings around it, arranges their home around it, surrenders a little more freedom to it. What began as a normal flicker of caution can quietly grow into something that runs the show. The good news is that this same path can be walked in reverse. Which raises the question that matters most. If avoidance only makes the fear stronger, then how does anyone ever loosen its grip? The answer is not to fight the dark, but to slowly, gently teach the brain something new. The good news is that the brain that learns fear can also unlearn it. The same flexibility that built the fear can be turned toward easing it. The key lies in a process your nervous system already knows well. It is called habituation. Habituation is simple in principle. When you are exposed to something harmless again and again, your brain slowly stops treating it as a threat. The alarm that fires loudly the first time grows quieter with each repetition, as the brain gathers proof that nothing bad happens. This is why facing fear gradually, in small and safe steps, tends to work far better than avoiding it. Instead of escaping the dark entirely, a person might spend a little time in dimmer light, then a little more, letting the brain learn at a pace it can handle. With each calm, uneventful exposure, the alarm updates its verdict. The dark, it slowly concludes, is not the danger it once assumed. This is also why small comforts can help so much. A nightlight, a familiar room, a predictable routine before sleep. These things work because they restore something the dark takes away. They restore a sense of control and predictability. Remember, your fear is largely a fear of uncertainty, so anything that makes the dark feel known and expected calms the alarm at its root. When you can predict your surroundings, when nothing about the night surprises you, your alarm system has far less reason to sound. Reframing how you think about the dark matters too. Instead of seeing it as a place full of hidden threats, you can practice seeing it for what it truly is. An empty, neutral space. The same safe room you trust in daylight, simply with the light removed. Over time, with patience, the dark can become ordinary again, even restful, the place where you finally let go and sleep. It helps to be gentle with yourself along the way. Pushing too hard, too fast only convinces the alarm that the danger was real. Small steps, calm breaths, a little more darkness each time. The brain learns best when it feels safe enough to lower its guard. And when fear of the dark grows severe, this same approach guides the proven treatments that help people reclaim their nights. Trained therapists use carefully paced exposure to walk people back into the dark, one safe step at a time. The fear, given the chance, learns to let go. It is a quiet kind of victory, one not by force, but by patience. Night by night, the alarm grows softer, until the dark feels like rest again. But here is the honest truth, and it is strangely comforting. The fear may never vanish completely, and that is perfectly fine. A faint flicker of caution in the dark is not a problem to be cured. It was never a bug in the first place. It is the quiet voice of every ancestor who survived the night, still watching over you just in case. You do not need to silence it entirely. You only need to teach it when it can rest. And once it learns that you are safe, the dark stops being an enemy. So you were never truly afraid of the darkness itself. You were afraid of the unknown it conceals, of the silence your senses cannot fill. That fear is not a weakness or a childish thing you fail to outgrow. It is one of the oldest survival programs you carry, an inheritance from every ancestor who feared the night and lived. Your brain, robbed of its dominant sense, simply does what it was built to do. It assumes danger, sharpens your ears, and fills the empty dark with shapes, just in case. And once you understand it, the fear loses much of its power. You can teach the alarm, gently, that the dark is only an empty room. If this pulled you in, there are two more journeys waiting for you. There is the one on what happens to your body when you are terrified, when fear floods every system you own. And there is the one on what happens in your brain when you dream, when the dark becomes a world of its own. Tonight, when you switch off the light, remember what that old feeling really is. Not a flaw, but a guardian, still watching the corners for you. This was Doodle Anatomy.